So here's what we do in this class. So together with researchers at Rotterdam School of Management, INSEAD in France, and the University of Oxford in England, we developed a workflow for collecting web data. That's kind of the data, the paper that I've given to you before, which you can find at tu.nu/scraping. Right, so please download this paper. So we developed a workflow that consists of 6 steps, and we're going to use these 6 steps to go through stuff in this class. First, you'll start exploring data. Suppose you want to run a study. Chances you're going to pick the site that you think is most popular, but sometimes the most popular website is not the best website to scrape. Maybe there is this niche website in a different country which has an official API that you can get free access to, which even gives you access to better variables. Yes, okay, it may not be studying the Netherlands or studying the US, but it may be studying, I don't know, France or studying Romania, studies, countries maybe that we don't see so much in the academic journals, right? But, the data may just be better, right? So I'll teach you the tools to, think about a problem that you have that you want to solve, or like a data context to start working in, and then expanding your set of choices and really blowing up your set of choices to really understand the landscape, the data landscape that's out there. And then suppose you pick a website and you want to start collecting data. Not all of the data you think is on that website is really there. So for example, if you go, the obvious example, if you go to Amazon.com, typically in a marketing study, you want to have access to sales data, right? And you click on whatever that does or is, I don't have a clue. But what you get is you get pricing information, you get out of stock information, but for example, you don't see sales. Another thing that you do is when you go to the ratings, that you can see the first page of ratings, maybe even the next page of ratings, and even the next page of ratings, but can you also access the last page? I mean, there are 18,000 reviews, right? So there should be a page 4,000, I guess. Well, yeah, it looks like you can get it. No, you cannot. Well, maybe because 4,000 into, it's just 18,000 reviews. So let me get page 600. That should be there. Does it work? I'm unable to divide 18,000 by like, so let me try page 400. Page 400 also doesn't work. And I think 400 should be working. 400. 4,000, yes, it should work, but you're hitting a limit. Some of those ratings you just are unable to extract because you can't scroll deep enough, which is a problem, right? So with all kinds of websites and APIs that you'll encounter, you first need to learn what data is really on there and what you can do with it. That you're going to do in the data availability assessment. And then you got to evaluate whether it really fits your research question. So for example, when I got this Spotify data, I monitored this website where people share what they consume, right? So you have a little plugin on your computer and it submits whatever song names to the service. So you can build listen up profiles. So what consumers listen to. But who signs up with the service in like 2008 or 9 or 10, right? It's the music geeks that sign up to these services because they're ahead of the adoption curve. It's new technology, so you may end up with a totally unrepresentative sample of users, and that may be problematic. So in a study where you say like this is how music consumption changed, you always need to say is among the people that really love to listen to music, because it's maybe difficult to generalize to populations which are not on this service, right? The same thing, if I'm going to run a study on TikTok, I will probably not be able to say how 50 and 60-year-olds behave, right? Because it's the younger guys and girls who are on that website. So, think about what your choice of website really does in terms of sample composition, for example. Then we're going to spend a lot of time on developing your coding prototype to actually fetch the data that you're interested in and actually running this data collection. You can develop your prototype in your web browser with like Jupyter Notebook, no problem in that. But when you take it into production, you want to run code locally on your computers, because your scrapers may run for like a couple of days to get the data that you want, right? And you don't want to run this like in a cloud instance that shuts you down after like an hour or so. And then I'll teach you how to pre-process and document and distribute the data set. Web data is entirely different. Well, not entirely different, but it's different from other data that you as marketeers will get familiar with eventually. So, for example, when you explore data, finding the right data source may be difficult, as many potential alternatives exists, right? When you run an experiment, it's clear, right? You go to the lab, or you have like a little survey and you send it to your, I don't know, friends on social media, and that's it, right? But with websites, you have unlimited choice, essentially. Also, the data that you get differs in delivery formats, right? You don't get like a well-formatted data table or access to a database. No, you get like websites with source code and how to structure this. This is different. And then access to data could also be available to you, even if it's not available commercially. That means you can study new phenomena, like I said, where nobody actually has given access to this data yet. Then in terms of data availability, the data that you can scrape is typically not documented, because websites are not so, mostly willing to support scraping, right? They're not going to say, hey, this is Amazon.com. You can scrape sales ranks and reviews. And no, they don't do that, right? So you need to figure it out yourself. And, that takes a lot of time. And first of all, you need to appreciate that this is actually what goes on. The types of variables that you get is also different, right? Sales information will likely not be shared unless in the historical moment where I scraped Amazon.com, because they had conversion rates publicly available on the website. That's why the study got published. One of the reasons it got published. Review scores are abundant, right? But sales data is rare. So think about that as a limitation maybe to scraping. Also, you could address different stakeholders. So for example, like in marketing, we study consumers and firms, but what you could study is also environmental stakeholders. Tesla right now is constructing a new factory of cars in Germany, and what you could monitor what people on social media think about this factory, and how communication strategies of Tesla shift the public opinion of people, right? So the stakeholders that you could address here are firms, right? Tesla, but you could also address activist groups, because you're able to study their behavior using publicly available data, right? And there's probably not a firm out there on the internet that sells you data on activists. So just go out and generate yourself. In terms of research fit and research use, scraping entails huge development costs and time to code. I just had my first scraper running in a few seconds, but like to really make it work, it takes a lot of practice. That's different from asking a company to give you a dump of data. Also, the infrastructure requirements are different for storing data and for running these kind of scraper programs, right? A laptop may be sufficient for this class, but if you go big and make this your business, you need to think about computing infrastructure. And then finally, none like the other data sets that you could get in marketing has the same legal and ethical gray zones like scraping does. So you need to be able to navigate that space. And a couple of other things like, when you hit the CAPTCHA wall, right? At Google, that happens a lot of times, how to solve these problems. The problems are quite different that you encounter here. How to assess data quality. You can't talk to anybody at the firm about the data that you got. So, what are good ways to do this? And then processing finally, because the data is so messy, you need extra cleaning efforts to do this. So the learning goals are identify the data sources, assess the terms and conditions of using this data, collect that data ultimately with web scraping or APIs, and transform whatever source code you get into data that you can work with. You're not going to answer any research question in this course. All you do is you generate data for an interesting context so that later on other people can actually work with this data. And these other people can be your friends in class, but it could also be you in a thesis later on. And that's why I'll teach you how to administer these data collections, finally document this data for future use. The positioning of this course is at the very front end of whatever you do in your program, right? you always start with business problems and you prepare the data to analyze a problem, you do the analysis, and then you evaluate the results and maybe write a little app that allows managers to play around with some model parameters. Data collection and management, online data collection management is really at the very beginning of your research workflow. And it's, I think, next to experimental research, the only class in this program that shows you how to get data in a proper way. As well as survey research, I think. I'm not sure you can take survey research, but that one is also cool. The course is structured in weekly modules, structured along the workflow that I just talked about. I expect you to invest a lot in this course in terms of self-study, videos, and exercises. I have curated together with a colleague amazing tutorials, many of which you can run in the cloud directly, unlike earlier announced. Actually, Colab is amazing, so try it out if you like. But of course, also install your local setup. And then there are going to be live streams, and I just find live streams so much more engaging and interesting than like a boring lecture where, yeah, I don't know, I just do the talking. So I hope that we can have live streams where we interact well. And for this, I have invented kind of, interactive activities. So, we can maximize our learning. And then finally, you're going to do a project in which you put your skills into practice. The tutorials are different from last year. So I don't know whether you know students from previous years. They will tell you this is so much work, but I made some of those tutorials optional this year to kind of balance the workload, which still means you still have to work a lot. So you need to learn Python, and maybe you know Python, so lucky you, but many of you don't. So the first one is going to be a totally scraping-free Python bootcamp. Just learn the basics of coding. And we're going to have a session on this where I'll walk you through this notebook and some solutions at the end of the week. Then there's going to be a tutorial for web data for dummies, just like getting some intuition on how all of this works. Kind of a long version of what I did today in class. And then you get the web scraping 101s and APIs 101s, the first kind of stuff that you need to do your scraping. If you think scraping is the thing you want to build your career on or write a thesis about, please plan in time to follow the optional tutorials. Bring in this extra knowledge in your teams, which will greatly improve your scrapers for your project. But this material is optional. So if teams submit stuff without this, that's totally fine. But if you really love this, please invest in it. The preferred option is to be able to run it on your computer, because ultimately you have to run your own data collection on your computer. But to explore and try out, and maybe you got problems with your setup, use Google Colab. And the nice thing is that on our website, I have a direct interface to Colab where you can just click on the tutorial, for instance, the Python Bootcamp, and you just open the tutorial in Google Colab. And then it just opens in your browser. Maybe you're being blocked when you're signed on with your Tilburg University account. No, actually, I'm logged in with Tilburg University and it works. So that's great. And you could just like go through this. It looks a little different than Jupyter Notebook, but it's very similar. If you want to run code, just click on the little play button. And then it says like, somebody else wrote this notebook. Are you sure you want to run it? And you need to trust me. You can run it. Okay. So that's how this works. And there's going to be an amazing team project. So you scrape data or collect data by APIs. You work through the entire workflow. There are multiple feedback moments in which students or I can give you feedback. And there is a whole page dedicated to project ideas. But please, these project ideas are like so my generation. So actually, I would love you to bring in your own, your own ideas about what you want to study. So last year, they scraped Indeed.com and they looked for what are the skills required to kind of get a job in marketing analytics. I got people who wrote a TikTok scraper to understand algorithmic biases on TikTok. At that time, people still needed to have a research question. This time not, right? Just scrape interesting context. You can go out of the mainstream and just, if you're into tennis, I don't know, maybe there's tennis data. If you're into soccer, maybe you want to scrape soccer data. Actually, if you want, I can ask my neighbor who works for the Eredivisie club in Waalwijk, actually as a data analyst, to talk to you about projects that he wants to be data to scrape on. So if you're interested in soccer and you want me to bug my neighbor about it, put it in the chat right now and I'll have a chat with him. You know, it's like whatever you're passionate about. If you're passionate or want to know more about dating platforms, you know, go out there and scrape some data from those. Make it your own, please. Don't try to think, oh, what will Hannes like? Oh, Hannes likes tutorial videos on YouTube, and you're all going to work like on tutorial data from YouTube. This is going to be super boring. Make it your own because you know best what you like. And talk to friends and family about it. Make it matter to you personally, for your development, to society, whatever you want. The course is openly available. And if you think this is something a friend should study, you know, just invite this person here, and the person can also watch my streams later on, which I make public. Everything is out there. I believe in open education, so spread the word. The course website is really your primary resource, and we only use Canvas for like posting announcements, because you get a little email, and I don't want to send manual emails in Outlook because I don't keep the list of students up to date, and so forth and so on. Also, sign up on Teams is going to be there. We're submitting stuff. Discussion board, I'm not sure I'm going to have a discussion board. Let's see about this. Is there anybody who doesn't have access to Canvas yet? So put your you know, name or no, sorry, put your student number or email address. Put your email addresses in the chat if you don't have access to Canvas yet. If you know about a student, a friend who doesn't have access to Canvas yet and wants to follow or audit this course, please put the email address in the chat. In the live streams, and Jeroen, by the way, I'm gonna talk about this installation in just a little bit. I received a message. So the live streams, please use the public chat like you do, so you're good in doing so already. Use it a little more massively than today. Help me as your moderator if I miss questions. So, you know, just unmute yourself and say, Hannes, you missed a question from like 5 minutes ago. Can you please answer? We're going to share screens. And for this, well, we're not going to only share screens, but I want to code on your computer, because the beauty of online education is that I can take over your computers and fix problems in like split seconds, rather than trying to explain you for 10 minutes on which button to click. The beauty is also everybody can see what I do. And for this, we use TeamViewer. Here's the link. So all install TeamViewer. Mac users, your system is being protected by Apple very well. So you have to enable a couple of extra security features to be able to steer your computer. This doesn't work without your permission, right? So whenever we do that, you send me your ID and temporary password. After we close the session, you're going to renew your temporary password. And I'll post recordings on Canvas and sometimes on YouTube, but without your faces. Grading, it's 50% on the team project, so that's quite heavy, and an online computer exam of another 50%. It's a take-home exam. Takes a day to like make. All of the info is on the website, including grading guidelines, I think. My commitment to you guys is get up to speed with web scraping and APIs. I'll learn a bit of Python, but I will not make you experts because that takes years of practice. My commitment is I want to discuss your ideas and your work, not only my ideas and my work, but that requires a little more active crowd, talking to me and working hard. You can always reach out and I'll show that to you on WhatsApp with ideas. And I'll show you the QR to get, you know, at me at my number to your phones. Actually, the best stuff that happened to me actually happened in these WhatsApp interactions. I want to give you a couple of examples. There's this one guy, Andrea, who 2 or 3 years ago was part of my class, and anyways, we chatted about business ideas, and well, he's the head data scientist on tilburgsciencehub.com right now. I hired him because it's so good, and we chatted about like many things and many business ideas first on WhatsApp. There's another guy, this professional League of Legends player, and this guy shared his screen, and I saw Discord, and I didn't know what Discord was, and I asked him, and he revealed he's like a gamer, and he felt embarrassed about it. But I said, like, look, this is cool because I want to learn more about what you do and how this works. This context of gaming, I think, is interesting. We don't know so much about this in marketing, so we need to study it. And well, we kept in touch on WhatsApp, and right now he is working in an analytics firm in Amsterdam for games. and he tried to hide his gaming profile in his CV early on. So I don't know, this interaction somewhat does good things if you're open for it. So, you know, this is not just like, how do I install WhatsApp? How do I install Python? But it could also be like, hey, Hannes, I got this amazing idea. What do you think about it? I want to be your coach, remember? So feel free to do this. I'm going to use open software because I want you to be able to use everything that you do in this class in a firm. So open software means free software, open source software. Bringing the ideas, don't be afraid to study topics off of the mainstream. There is a diversity statement of this class, and I haven't like put this out here for no reason. I want you to just make this your, I mean, this class should help you be who you want to be. So whatever context you want to pick for your data, just make this your very own thing, please. What's actually going to happen is you're going to be super motivated right now, maybe a little bit tired because this has been going on for like an hour or so. But there's another thing that I need to warn you about. This is the brain death by coding. The thing is, coding can be super frustrating. If you're starting out, even in my stage, it can be super frustrating because you hit a problem and you don't know how to solve it. And you start Googling around and you don't find the answer and you think you found it, but then it still doesn't work. And maybe you've never had this feeling before, but in a week from now, you'll probably all have had the feeling of feeling a little like dizzy in your head. It's actually physically dizziness in your head. So when coding, drink a lot of water, take breaks, stop coding, go for a run, go meet friends, go have a coffee, go sleep, and then start again. Like this is actually where this like comparison to skating works, right? So sometimes I go out skating and I don't have a good run, and then like a week later I go back, and the first time I'm trying this trick, it just works, but it's never worked before. So taking a break is valuable because even though you don't realize, your brain, even when you sleep, like, you know, learn stuff. And for me, it's like I learn balance even if I don't practice, right? I practice and I learn a little bit, but during my breaks, when I take breaks, I learn more stuff and I'm better when I return because I'm fresher and also because my brain did some magic at night. So that's the same thing for coding. So please take breaks. You'll learn from your mistakes. We got elaborate support in this class. I'm not going to let you drown. I'm not going to leave you alone on this. They're going to be quick feedback loops. But what I also expect you to connect to each other, meet each other in person, and have yourself as your first contact person. There are certain steps of escalation. So when you really should reach out, it's like when you're in trouble, try to find the information on the course website. Maybe you can even search on the site using Google. I don't know. You can try out. Ask Google and Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is a website with coding stuff. Ask friends or classmates. If you don't know anybody, I mean, you should sign up with your classmates for at least 3 beers this week. Just meet each other because you're going to be a cohort of like-minded people who study this. So like you need each other. So please form learning groups as soon as possible. If it is not urgent, maybe you want to ask a question to the live stream. If it can't wait, be in touch with me. And usually in the very beginning of this course, issues can't wait because you just like can't get started. Like I just had a person who wanted to use Python and said, it doesn't work because if I write Python, nothing happens. Turns out Python was already open. And if you write Python and Python says, I'm open. Well, it doesn't say anything. It's like, I don't know what Python is. It hasn't been programmed to recognize that you're already in the software, right? So sometimes you need these little nudges, like me looking at your screen for like 1 second to like help you move along. Please do this more at the beginning of this course than later in this course. How do you get in touch with me? Scan the QR code right now and add my WhatsApp for Business account to your phone. This is a separate phone. It's an old whatever phone that I don't use in the weekends, but I have WhatsApp on it, and I'm available between 9 to 5 every day except Wednesday. I think the automatic message still says Thursday, but I switched my day because I have to teach you on Thursday. So I'm off on Wednesdays. Let me know your first names first time you enter this chat, because otherwise I'm chatting to +31 and then blah, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I never know who you are. Sometimes I also need to look up stuff on Canvas and I need to know who you are, right? I mean, I don't like email. I mean, send me an email if you can't do without it, but WhatsApp is so much better. If you're new to WhatsApp, there's a WhatsApp for web client, web.whatsapp.com, but obviously you know all this, right? But web.whatsapp, actually a student last year didn't know this, web.whatsapp.com, and you can open your WhatsApp in your browser. Just figure it out, web.whatsapp.com. What's in for you? Essential skills if you want to make this your business on the basis of web data. You could, like as a consultant, be the linking pin between the marketing and analytics crowd. You can become researchers like I am, collect your own data or work in research projects. Research is not only being done in academia for obvious reasons, but it's also being done in the industry. I've consulted in industry a lot where I use scrape data. For example, I worked alongside a lawyer in a case on thuiskopie right? Every time you pay, like, everybody you buy, like, I don't know, a hard disk, you need to pay like 10 euros to Stichting Thuiskopie in the Netherlands. This is an organization that collects revenues because a hard disk theoretically enables you to make copies of CDs that you have purchased. And that's legal, right? To take private copies so you're able to transfer what you have on a CD. I don't use CD anymore, right? It's like a legacy system. And using web scrape data, I recalibrated how much damages are caused to music artists and actually was able to bring down the amount of fees that you need to pay for thuiskopie, right? That is where scrape data can be super handy too. So, so research, I think in English really sounds like academic research. I think the term onderzoek in Dutch is way broader than just academic onderzoek or academic research, right? Because it also concerns onderzoek for like industry. And then showcase expertise in coding and put it on your screens. CVs, sorry. Then give me some ideas on what would make this course a success for you. Put it in the chat right now. What are the 3 things you're looking for in this course? Is this going according to your expectations? Do you think, yeah, I don't know. What would be amazing as a final, let's say, thing that you do in this course? What is it that would make you give a 10 on this course? Just put it in the chat. I'm looking for your inspiration because I need feedback. Just put it in the public chat. What would make this course a success for you? But I think you're slowly like falling asleep or whatever. So it's almost end of the class. I know, I understand. So far, so good. Okay, awesome. Thanks for the, actually, even if you don't have a suggestion, you can just like thumbs up, good, well done, right? Because I don't see your, I mean, I see only just thumbnails. This also helps. Seems great. Thanks, Paulus. Prepare data for use. For thesis, yes, exactly. So think ahead. Think about what may be like interesting thesis projects. Maybe you can browse through the available thesis topics already, so you kind of gosh what contexts are available. Something other I would recommend you to do is, none of us studies gaming or tennis or whatever you're passionate about. I don't know, right? So if you want to study this for your thesis, you need to convince an advisor to post a topic around this theme, right? So if you scrape data, maybe in other classes, you can already reach out to people who could become your potential advisors on whether they'd be interested in supervising a particular topic. Thanks, by the way, for so much love in the chat. So thanks, Stan. Programming, yes. Julie, you'll see me coding a lot. So just watch out and see how I do things or your fellows, and you're going to learn a lot. Guys, good. You're not going to be a noob when you exit this class. Yeah, some reliable and adequate data. I'm still working on this. I do my best, but it's a long way to go. Learn the basics. Yes. All right. And then there's something that Jeroen wrote about something else about installation. Let me read this for just a second. Yeah. Okay, good. I'll add this to the page. Thanks, Jeroen. It's not so relevant to others. All right, getting started. So install the software. By the way, this was required for today. So if you haven't done so, do it now. Do the Python Bootcamp, which is the first tutorial on the site. I posted a video, which is a little old, like 2 years. I recorded this even before this class existed, but I think it's a good summary of what web scraping APIs are. It's more elaborate than what you've seen in this class. I expect you to work hard and then, be in touch on WhatsApp for questions or feedback. And I before closing, I just want to show you Twitch. Obviously, you're all on Twitch, but Twitch is also a great way to learn with each other. So, for example, last year, one student started live streaming his sessions when he coded, and students joined his chat and just gave feedback. And you can, send me your Twitch stream link to via WhatsApp, and I may join and give comments. Right? I really want to make this class different than what you expected. Let's try to explore how education or online education can be fun. So if you're up to live streaming yourself, just sign up. I may post like a little note on how I did this last year, but figure it out. I don't want to impose a format. You're the ones in charge of what happens in this class. So make this a great class. You can unmute to ask questions. What will we do on Thursday? Well, I don't know. Let me see. Schedule. All right, Q&A and walkthrough of the Python bootcamp. So you can also go to week 1 and see live stream 2, walkthrough of this week's tutorial. So it's the Python bootcamp. I'll open it in Google Colab once again, and it teaches you the basics of Python. What are if-else statements, what are dictionaries, how to loop over lists. And this sounds like something, why do I need it? And maybe in future editions of this course, I will actually tell you why you need it. I mean, for web scraping, because I don't think that's so much in there. It's, I think, a tutorial that's a little unrelated to web scraping, but it's all this stuff. I mean, we developed it for this class, but it doesn't talk so much about scraping, I believe. So, but it's essential stuff that you need to be able to code, right? Can you choose your own group members? I will not make groups. You can choose yourself. Yes. This is not, yeah. There's going to be, let me see on the team project. If you go to work plan, you'll see how I see this. So in week 1, this is week 1. You don't have to do anything. Really spend some time to have drinks or anything that you want with your classmates. Familiar yourself. Next week, in terms of project work, we're going to do lots of stuff next week. But like in terms of project work, you're going to invest in idea generation, and we're going to have a stream in which I'm trying to elicit more than what happened today in terms of projects, so that like the interests in class, and you can then as a function of this decide on which teams to go for. Right. So this is that. So on the page, there's like pretty elaborate information. Also what we do in the coaching sessions and how to join this and la, 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 la. Let me see, work plan. Coaching sessions take place, I think, in week 6 and 7. I mean, yeah, just browse the page. The info is there. Maybe I made a mistake on the page. Could happen because I changed the structure of the course just a little bit this year. So let me know if you find things are not squaring up. Paulus, if you're a Python pro, maybe you just don't even need to join on Thursday, right? I mean, it's up to you. But if Python is something new, you'll see me walking through this thing and you'll see me clicking where you would never have clicked. And maybe that, helps you to learn. That's why I also enjoy watching coders on Twitch. Good, Paulus, you're not a Python pro, so, better be there. Okay, any other thing that you want to talk about, chat about, any installation issues you're running into? Otherwise, I'll close this session right now. So thanks a bunch. And I'll see you Thursday. But for anybody who wants to talk to me about other issues or who doesn't want to talk in public or while being recorded, I'll stop the recording and then you can, still unmute and ask a question. So thanks a bunch. And I'm really looking forward. And by the way, I'm on campus usually on Mondays. So if you want to meet me in person, just send me a text on WhatsApp and we can arrange a time. And, if many people want to see me, I'll have office hours. But right now, let's just keep it informal. All right. Thanks a bunch. Looking forward. Cheers, guys.